Hello everybody, it is Ebontis and welcome to Once Human. If you guys have been playing for a little while, haven't heard of this game, or maybe you've been playing for a decent amount of time, but hopefully want to learn something about this game, that is my goal. There are a lot of systems when it comes to this third-person shooter, survival crafting, MMO, open world, supernatural, crossed with technology, a little bit of horror and everything else in there. There's just a lot going on in this game, and there's a lot of systems to kind of make it all work. And generally, they do a pretty good job. I mean, things will hopefully get better over time, as this is still kind of early, but I will say there's a lot to wrap your head around in this game, and my goal in this video, with a bunch of timestamps down below, so if you want to jump to different sections for specific topics, like you really want to know about like weapons and crafting over there, that's going to be a whole thing, and blueprints, as opposed to more map and general universal stuff as well. So jump around to any part of the video that you find helpful, but this hopefully will be my kind of ultimate guide, beginner's guide, but it's not going to be all-inclusive, so if I do forget anything major that you've thought about, please feel free to throw that in the comments, and that may be my second video. But for now, let's jump into Once Human and my guide to get started. Alright, so one of the first things to talk about is the map. It's how you're going to be getting around. Once you go through the opening tutorial and you kind of beat the weird little radio tower, you're going to fall into your world. Whatever server you're on, whatever world you're on, it's going to be world typically like mine's 1 through 10, so I'm on 6 that my friends were on. And you're going to be falling into this area. You've got this old kind of decrepit monolith. You're going to be between Overlook Town and Throughville and Inspection Point. My territory is right here. And Deadsville's probably over here. You've probably fallen somewhere in this region. This is the opening zone. Now, everything in this game, typically so far, has been broken up into kind of tiers of enemies and zones, and everything is by about 10 levels. So you'll notice the big monoliths, the big icons on the map, these yellow ones, level 10. Everything in there is up to about level 10, level 20 the same way, 30, and if you would imagine 40 and 50 kind of follow suit. And everything in that zone is going to kind of slowly go up. If you want to know what zone you're in, just truly mouse over anywhere on the map that's not a specific objective. And as you mouse over, you'll see this is the Broken Delta, kind of a higher level area. This is Broken Delta, a little lower level area. This is Dayton Wetlands. Down here, pretty low-level wetlands. All of this stuff is just general, and then you can go over these specific territories and see the Citrus County place is level 4, and the Overlook Town is level 3. And up here you got Brookham is level 8. And when you start, you're just going to land, and what I will tell you is the top left-hand corner, any of the directions it has up there are actually a pretty good tutorial. There's a lot of information the game gives you, but it's very easy to forget, miss, or kind of overlook some of the little details it gives you, so that's also probably why this video is hopefully going to give you guys some information you may have forgotten or hopefully will learn something from. But when you get started, it's going to tell you to build your basic territory, build some foundations, build a couple of walls, build a furnace, build those basic items, follow all of those steps, go out and, chop down a few trees and get some copper. That's how it's going to get you started, and it does a decent job of running you through the gauntlet. You're going to have your first initial quest. You're eventually going to head to Deadsville. You will eventually get a motorcycle, so I'm going to kind of assume some of those basics are there. What I'm going to go for is a little bit more of the detailed minutia stuff that we're going to be talking about. The general idea for each zone is you have a monolith in that zone that will contain a boss fight. And to be able to get access to that, you need to be able to actually get into there. So you're going to need to activate typically a certain number of rift anchors. Rift anchors are these little kind of half circular icons, and they're usually typically around these little town structures. And for this first zone, I think it was like 4 that I needed to activate. Well, there are more than 4, so you don't have to activate every single one. But say if you come down here to the second territory, this is the level 20 area. I did do 1, 2, 3, 4. I cleared out 4 of them. Now, the little blue markers, these are side quests. I didn't quite finish those up. If you come over here, I didn't quite finish some of these territories to complete all of their objectives. And I do want to say, it is okay if you don't finish every single one, because it's not fully necessary. And if you're even going through a territory and these objectives are Rift Anchor, well, go right here, activate the Rift Anchor, and you should probably do that even to some of these other ones, because the rewards from the Rift Anchor that you can see there, they're actually kind of rare. There's not a lot of places to get some of this stuff, so the more Rift Anchors you activate, even if you just come back later, drive through and pop this one real quick, it's still worth doing because the Rift Anchors are worthwhile. The reason you want to go through a lot of these other towns are going to be for the mystical crates, the weapon and armor crates, finding random deviants or deviations that are just going to be out in the world that you can kind of capture and take back to your base. Think like Pal World Pokemon, but not quite as pretty as, kid-friendly per se. They're a little darker looking. And the resources that you're going to get by exploring the destination as well. So when we get to crafting and talking about crafting, you're going to need a certain tier of resource to go up to like tier 2. Well, any tier 2, say, weapon or armor that you're going to craft is going to have resources that come from this zone. And if you take this, for example, the Sutherland chemical plant, the chemical plant actually occupies a decent amount of space. Now, if you get over here to the inspection point or down here to the Sunbury farm, you've wandered outside of that zone. But the actual Sutherland chemical plant, if you look for a rift anchor and the actual building structure, that's going to give you an idea where the zone is. And the reason I say think outside the box, I had the hardest time finding the harbor side like one of the final objectives. It was probably an elite crate or one of those things. Maybe it was elite enemies. I don't even remember. And what I was doing is I was up here for harbor side, but it was working on this side, like above the bridge, basically is where I was. And I didn't realize there was some territory down below. So if you're ever looking for some of the mystical crates or weapon and armor crates, they're there. I promise you, I've had one eventually be findable. Sometimes they're just hard to find. And if you go through all of that and you're like, I got the mystical crate and I got everything. Now, if you're a completionist, you're eventually probably going to want to find it. That's up to you. You'll let your OCD kind of win or not. But the rift anchor is the important part. If you get, one weapon crate, the mystical crate, defeat some enemies, run through some of the buildings, pick up some of the supplies, and you do all of that, but you leave one weapon crate unfound, you'll still be able to go and, tackle the monolith and do that later on. That's okay. It's just the idea that in each of these areas, within the weapon and armor crates, you're going to find blueprints. The mystical crate's going to find specific like blueprints or weapons or drops or things. And then as you run around the zones, as I said, you'll be picking up random crap. And it is truly random crap. I mean that quite literally. It's going to be things like footballs and lanterns, old clothing, alarm clocks. All of this stuff is basically dismantled. And that's where you're going to get things like rusted parts and waste plastic and shabby fabric and those types of things. The difference is when you get to higher areas, like the tier 2, tier 3, those kind of things, they're going to drop materials that break down into higher level items. So when you actually go to craft items, you'll have those, higher level materials to be able to craft the higher level items. So that's why it's like you could technically run, through this first area if you want to. Rift anchor, rift anchor, rift anchor, rift anchor, go into the monolith, fight it. Now, you may have some very low basic stuff, and it's probably an easier fight, but if you try the same thing down here, you're going to realize this fight's going to kick the crap out of you, and you need to level up. That's where getting the gear, getting new blueprints, getting new stuff is where it's going to be beneficial. Now, when it comes to navigating the map, you'll see these big kind of look like water droplets with half a gear on it. Those are going to be your main cities. Those are where your NPCs are situated for a certain territory. Deadsville's level 2, Myers Market's in your level 10 zone. Up here, we've got Greywater Camp. All of these are going to be where your NPCs, your vendors, and kind of your quest is likely to take you, because my next one is going to take me here to the Tall Grass Inn. Same thing, NPCs, and the story is a little off and weird and kind of bonkers, but this is where it's going to actually progress to. You'll talk to a few people here, pick up side quests, and you'll have some vendors that you'll interact with in these places. The other icons you're going to notice are these teleportation towers. Now I've got one right down there next to me. The thing about fast travel in this game, you can from anywhere in the world fast travel back to your base. It is on a 10-minute cooldown, pretty easy to do that, and depending on what you're doing in a world, maybe it's like, hey, I need to run up here and, get to this area, but I'm all the way down here. Instead of just getting on your bike, which is not a bad way to go, but you will expend fuel to drive all the way up here, save half the trip if you're down here, teleport home, dismantle your stuff, empty your backpacks, and then travel where you're going to go. One of the things you can do is you can move your territory, straight up your entire house and structure that you've built. When you get to, say, this third area up here, and you're like, all right, so this is the main area where I'm going to be. I've got the town here. Looks like kind of a central location might be somewhere near here. I could just plop my territory right here if I've got the space for it. And if there's no enemies nearby, I should be pretty great. And then that way, if I'm, popping by my territory, it's going to be, for one, a lot cheaper, and two, it's going to be just a nice central location you can get between most of what you're working on in that current area. And the reason I say that is I can teleport home for free, but if I go to a teleportation tower, the farther you teleport, the more energy it costs. Now, right now, You'll notice I'm running a bit slow because I'm thirsty and hungry, and we'll cover the survival stuff here in just a second. But I wanted to show you guys this stuff first since I'm here. You have to be basically standing on the teleportation thing for it to activate. But I'm down here, and if I want to travel, say, way up here, it's going to take me 247 energy. If I want to travel over here, 273, but if I want to travel like next door, it's 92. So it is one of those things that the more you teleport, and the farther you teleport, the more expensive it is. That's why the free teleport home to save half of that trip sometimes is going to be a good idea. Then you can drop stuff off, dismantle, start your furnace on some of the ingots or whatever you got, maybe craft something, upgrade, who knows, and then move on with your journey. So that's most of what the map is going to hold. The other thing is you'll see these little blue icons on the map, and they will also show up on the mini-map. Most of this stuff does. The blue icons for say, hey, I need to find 3 clues in this little area. Now, granted, sometimes with mouse over, the little clue dots move, but if you're looking at the map, this little clue section is truly going to be in the south side of this building, somewhere right around this area. Now, when you're looking for anything in this game, whether it's a weapon crate, whether it's a mystical crate, they could be more vertical than you might think. They could be on top of a building. You might have to find a ladder that gets you up higher, but they're generally going to be in that spot. So those little blue icons for side quests, read what they say. Sometimes they're going to give you hints, but their locations usually pretty spot on, or it's going to be a very tight range of a circle to look within. But overall, the map is going to give you pretty good amount of information, going to tell you the rewards that you can get, and if you're looking for anything too specific, look into what you may need, and also some of these like securement silos like this one, these we'll mention a little bit later. Come across one of those, well, I've got a teleportation tower that's next to it, so I can get back to it quickly and maybe farm it. So anytime you see a teleportation tower, even if you're not quite driving by it, go out of your way and make the detour and activate it, because you'll think yourself, because like this one, for example, maybe I wanted to head up here to this little market workshop or something. If I had activated this tower, I could go damn near exactly there. Otherwise, I got to use one of these farther towers and then drive over. So if you're by a teleportation tower anywhere, and especially the ones in the main town, make sure you activate every single one in the main town, because if you don't, you won't be able to teleport. And it's not the most obvious thing, but make sure you activate them every time, and then you'll be able to get back to all these places quicker. So you'll go around, clear a zone, look for those mystical crates and weapon crates and gear crates while you kill enemies and search buildings for materials. Eventually activate the rift anchor, do enough rift anchors, go to your monolith, face the boss, and then the quest will proceed forward to take you to the next zone, and you'll be going for quite a while on that loop. So that's the general game loop, the map, rift anchors, and one piece of advice if you're looking for ocean water, which you can boil the ocean water to get salt for baking and cooking and stuff, it's down here. And that's why this little teleportation spot, you can walk right down to the water, pick up some seawater, and then when you boil it, you get salt. It's good for other things we'll talk about, just if random point of reference. Other than that, everything else we will be talking about more in-game than the map, but hopefully this is helpful in some way. Now, when it comes to your survival, you've got a couple of different stats. You're going to have stamina first, pretty straightforward. If you're running for a while and you run out of stamina, or you're dodge rolling in combat, whatever it may be, when you run out of stamina, obviously you can't do very much. You're not going to be able to dodge roll or jump. You got to wait for that to come back. Stamina's not really anything I worry about too much. And even if I eat a decent meal, you can even boost your max stamina, which is kind of nice. Sanity. Your sanity will decline when you enter a monster, encounter monsters, or enter pollution zones. And if you lose sanity, your max HP will be lower. So my health bar right now at the bottom is that gray bar below all those little icons in the bottom center. What's going to happen is if you're losing your sanity slowly, or you're in an area with a certain amount of pollution, whatever it may be, what's going to happen is your gray health bar is from the right-hand side and creeping in. It's going to slowly start to fill up with this like dark gray kind of metallic looking bar that fills that up. And what that does is whatever that is occupying is health you no longer have. Now you can get your your sanity fully recharged by sleeping in your bed in your base, which is an easy way to do it. There are sanity gummies if you want to do it on the fly. But my thing about the sanity gummies, if you're in the middle of, say, a zone and you're clearing it out and you're doing a lot of fighting and there's still enemies around, maybe there's pollution in the area, which is not an obvious thing that I've learned yet, but it's still there. The time that you want to clear your sanity is if you're done with an area. You're out in the open world, you clear your sanity with a sanity gummy. If you're really desperate for it, then, but I don't use these hardly at all. I really try and preserve these things because you don't get a lot of these things. They're pretty rare. But they would clear up your sanity for 500. And then at that point, whatever health is not there, you can use any of your activators that you've got to get your health back. Activators are nice because no matter how much health you have as a total health pool, they give you 50% back. So that's your sanity. Then you've got hydration and you've got energy. Now, hydration is simple. You got to drink water or fluids or soda or something to make sure you're good. Now, you do not want to drink seawater. Obviously, that's going to, for one, be bad for you, which the same way it is in real life. It's going to take away hydration and take away sanity. Now, there are rare moments where if you eat something bad, you need to throw it up. That's kind of one of the rare ways to do it, but you're going to pay the price if you do. Normally, all you're going to want to do is just get normal boiled water, which you can just grab water anywhere and cook it on the furnace, and you'll have boiled water. And that's going to take my hydration back up to a better level. And you'll notice my stamina right now is in the lower territory, so my stamina recovery speed is slower. My movement speed is actually slower, and I don't even think I can sprint right now. So if I drink one boiled water, that's going to get me back up. Increase my sprint speed to +10, so I do have some sprint, but not much. And I don't have the actual recovery stamina hit. That kind of nature is better. Then if I drink again, and again, boiled water, not hard to find. Chop down a few trees, go fill up your canteen with a little bit of water, and you're mostly good. So now I'm back in the top category. 60 to 100%, sprint speed 20%, stamina cost for sprinting is 50% less, and the final line says no hydration loss for 20 minutes when hydration is maxed out. Currently, it's almost full, but if I drink one more time, it's going to max me out. And what's going to happen then, you'll notice it's going to tell you, you're fully hydrated. No natural hydration loss for 20 minutes. So now my hydration is capped at 100 for the next 20 minutes. So if I'm getting ready to go into a territory, clean it out for a while, and I'm going to be in there fighting enemies and stuff for a little while, that is a good time to top off your hydration and not have to worry about it for a bit. Similar situation when it comes to food. Right now, you'll notice I'm actually able to carry less weight, which is not great. And also I'm not getting an HP bonus as I have more energy. So there are different types of food that you can eat, like roasted hawthorn would give me a little bit. There's some tea that you can get later on that'll give me some hydration, random stuff like that. You've got canned food, which will give me a whole bunch of stuff. You've also got preserved food, because some food will spoil. Like this food that I cooked has a 24-hour timer, and then when it spoils, it's done. You do not want to eat spoiled food. That is something you can turn into compost later, which is not a bad thing, but your sanity will go down if you eat spoiled food. I've actually got preserved food, which will take away a little hydration, but being as boiling water is very, very easy to do, I'm going to get my food back this way, which is going to be a lot simpler. So, same thing's going to happen when I get my energy up to max now, because I'm in the 60 to 100% category. I'm in that current category of 60 and up. So my HP's got the 400 plus, got my melee weapon damage bonus, but I need one more meal to be able to then get maxed out with energy. And then you'll see the fully stuffed, no energy loss for 20 minutes. And then now if I just have that boiled water again, I should be golden for the next 20 minutes. So those are your main survival mechanics. You can have basic boiled water. You can have some actual really cool dishes like this one. Cool Head. 1800 seconds that it lasts, used to increase weak spot damage by 25% when your sanity is above 80%. So if you're in a place where sanity is pretty good, your headshots are going to do more if you can manage to keep your sanity reasonable. And then you've got random stuff like juice for hydration, basic level stuff, and then, I've got Stardust Corn Ale. 100 hydration, 1000 sanity, used to increase all character action speed by 20%. So you'll notice there's always going to be tiers of these things. You've got your basic greens, uncommon blues, rares, legendaries. I'm not entirely sure if that's what they call them in this game, but that's the idea. Your stamina, sanity, hydration, and energy, those are your main survival mechanics. They're not usually that detrimental to worry about, so it's actually nice. You kind of got to keep an eye on them. Game will remind you sometimes, but overall, it's pretty reasonable to manage all of this, and I think they did it pretty well. Now, I've teleported back to my base for one more thing. Early on, when you're looking for water, truly all you have to do is find a little bit of pond, whatever. You're going to collect dirty water, just like this. And then when you're done collecting the dirty water, 15 at a time, pretty simple, into your canteen. Water does have a decent amount of weight to it, so you don't want to carry too much. Then you just literally take it back to the furnace with some wood, boil it, and you're good to go. Really simple to make boiled water, something you should never run out of. The other thing to make note of is food. Food is one of those things early on, may not be the most obvious to come by, but you are actually going to want to hunt any animals you see. So it's not something I would really say is like the nicest thing in the world, but it is for your survival because this is your early way to get any meat that you can get. But the other thing when you hunt, whether it's deer or crocodiles or rabbits or whatever it is, you're going to get rawhide. And rawhide, when you go to craft your first armor, is one of those pieces of materials that you're going to need. And this is usually going to be 2 birds with 1 stone. And you can see I actually got deer milk there. So that one is actually going to give me just, I found a random thing that's going to give me 20 hydration. Found it luckily, but I've also got 5 deer meat that I can go cook. You do want to make sure you cook your food because for one, it's not going to risk your sanity, and 2, it's going to last for 24 hours and give you more benefits. But that's the basics. If you need quick food, you might find some like hawthorn berries, like these little guys here. These are going to give you some basic food, and you'll find a bunch of different random stuff. You'll find oranges and pumpkins and potatoes, and I've got an apple tree here. And if I chop it down, you'll see I'll get some logs, but if I keep chopping, I'm going to probably get some apples. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. There you go, I got a couple apples in the end. And you can have those for food, and apples are kind of cool because they give you a little bit of both. So the world is out there, and just like try and kind of pick up what you can, and you're going to be better off just taking care of your food and water early. Build up yourself a decent supply of food. Make sure you got plenty of boiled water. Shouldn't be something you ever run out of. And then you can get to all the other stuff. All right, so we've covered the map. We've covered your basics of survival, food, a little bit of like hydration and that kind of thing. What is the main next thing that you're going to be doing? You're going to be building your base. Now, don't mind my little deviations floating around doing their thing. We'll cover that a little bit later. But when you build a foundation, you're going to have plenty of space to build early on. I kind of started getting into floors and having some fun with some decorations. But your basics are going to be your like furnace, your supplies bench, your workbench, and then you're eventually going to want to start building some storage. And you can craft from storage. So any of the random materials that say I throw in here, I'll always have access to these when I craft them. So storage is pretty cheap and you should be able to use it pretty frequently. The thing to know about your base is maybe you want to get into the aesthetics of building. So when you get into building, what you're going to do, we already covered relocating your territory. You can see that that's Z. So if I come out here and I just hit Z, I can actually move my whole territory out here. And you're eventually going to be able to upgrade your territory and expand. So you will need to probably move it from where you started because usually the opening area is kind of full. But one thing me and probably most people forget about, if you're standing in your territory, you can turn on flight mode. And then you just have a free camera for building. Maybe you want to try and organize this roof, but it's really hard to do from on the ground or above. Just don't forget about it. It's tilde. It's like right next to the 1 button. And you can do free roam camera. It's a nice kind of fun way to maybe look around and see what's around you. See if any other territories are nearby. But the free roam camera building makes it so much easier to kind of just have a little fun, work on a roof easier, maybe work on some aesthetics for your building, that kind of stuff. Makes all that stuff really, really simple. So believe me, I forgot about it for a little while and I got reminded of it, and it's definitely a good thing. So don't forget about that when you're building. Other than that, how you build your house, the aesthetics, the minimalistic or, you know, crazy fashionable approach, that is totally up to you. Have fun with building. It's part of the game. Enjoy it. Now, when it comes to your gear, this is like a whole topic in and of itself. You're going to have your 2 weapons, and then you're going to have a melee weapon. Don't sleep on the melee, because I'll be honest with you, your melee, especially if you're like running around early on, if you have like a baseball bat, like I got this kind of giant machete thing that I found. Early on, use your melee, and you're going to actually conserve a decent amount of ammo, because yeah, you can shoot stuff, but your melee, get a couple bat swings as you're running around some of the low-level areas. Nice way to conserve ammo. Another way to conserve ammo early on is to use a bow. You get a crossbow as one of your first weapons, and arrows, if you shoot them into an enemy, and then you go run over that enemy, you pick up the arrow. So you actually can keep your arrows and reuse them for a long time. You may only craft 50 arrows, but when you get done with like a big area, and especially if you're like decently leveled and you're just clearing out a territory and you can craft yourself a decent bow, I could go now if I want to go clear this thing out, this one down here, which is having some weird effects. I could clear this area out because it's level 18 and I'm like in my 30s at this point. With probably a crossbow, use very minimal ammo, and it's a way to kind of be efficient with, you know, maybe backtracking to some areas. So don't sleep on the bow and arrow, especially you can craft a recurve bow later on. Crossbows and bows, are really good ways to manage ammo because you do have to craft your ammo. And also don't sleep on your melee, because sometimes just being able to swing real quick at something, if you've leveled it up with you, you can do a decent chunk of damage, and, you know, some of the enemies are not going to be that threatening. Some of them are going to shoot you, but early on, especially as they're just mostly kind of zombie melee guys, slash them with your knife and you won't waste that much ammo, so don't sleep on that stuff. But when it comes to your gear, you're going to have your 2 weapons, you're going to have your melee, and you're going to have your 6 gear slots. Now, you'll notice I have this weapon and this weapon, and then the melee weapon at the top, you'll see it says dropped gear. You cannot repair a piece of gear. Gotta love voice cracks. You cannot repair a piece of gear that is dropped. So if you find a really cool weapon, for example, but it's one you picked up from a crate, you cannot repair that one, which means when I get into things like upgrades and all that other stuff, do not spend any resources on upgrading it. Now, if you want to craft some ammo, use the weapon, shoot stuff for a little while, that is totally fine. No reason not to do that. But when it comes to spending money on any type of upgrades on a dropped weapon, you should not do that. I think that is something they should change, that if you find a weapon, you know, potentially you should be able to repair it and keep using it. But as of right now, you cannot do that. And a good way to check that is if you come over to your weapons bench and you check repair, you're going to see right here on my little camping knife that I can't repair it. And it's going to tell me pretty straight away, like, I hover over this one, hover over this one, hover over this one. You are not the owner. You cannot repair. So as a found weapon, you can't repair it. So that is one. Repairs typically are not that expensive. You'll see it's like 1 or 2 random pieces of whatever tier level I've got. You don't need to repair it that frequently, but you know, you want to make sure some of the stuff doesn't break. So repairing, not a big deal, but being as you cannot repair things that you have found, do not upgrade them. So how do you upgrade things? Well, if you find a weapon that you can craft, and we'll get to that in a minute, calibration is the upgrade system. Now, if you take a weapon like this basic pistol, for example, and I crafted this one, it's going to start out at a lower level. But if you have the resources, which start out as usually just basic materials, you'll usually bump up the damage a little bit. And then the calibration is also typically going to unlock certain attributes. So you'll notice right here, if it says +4, I would get +12 stability and +6 range. The thing about some of these early green weapons, like this one, for example, I did spend the +4 because I was just messing around with the sniper rifle just to test things out. Right now, it's only green, and it's a low-level thing. It's a low-tier weapon, and we'll get to that in a second. But I took it up to +4, and I did unlock these. The thing is, the resources it takes to use, like, Stardust resources for calibration at a higher level gets to be expensive. When you get up to your purple weapons or your legendary weapons, and then you're going to start spending resources that are more expensive, that's when it gets to be alright. Because if you've crafted a decently high weapon, you're going into some more difficult content, you're going to want some of those benefits. But earlier, when you're just running around doing basic stuff and it's 1 or 2 shots of most things will kill everything, save your calibrations for a bit later. But it truly is just the resources you have, and then it's going to be determined by the tier of the weapon, how high, and the tier of the weapon and the rarity of the weapon, in how high you can get it to actually get up to. These aren't even an option for this one, because it's not at a high enough level. Later on, we'll get to some higher stuff. Okay, so you want to know how to craft a weapon. Well, when you start, you're not going to have access to a lot of blueprints. As I told you, when you run around and open the weapon crates, the armor crates, and the mythical crates, you're going to find different blueprints and fragments of blueprints, and we'll get to blueprints once we cover this. But this is where, once you have a blueprint fully unlocked and kind of activated, you can come in here and craft these things. But you're going to notice you have different tiers. So, first off, when it comes to the green versus the blue versus the purple versus the orange, the higher the rarity, typically the better base damage it's going to have. But also you'll notice even the green versus the blue one is going to have weapon features, the green one is not. So if you come down here, you're going to have certain stats. Stats may be similar, but the weapon features 30% chance to trigger shrapnel, and shrapnel will deal extra damage to extra parts of the enemy. And the shrapnel damage is 60%. So I have a 30% chance to do just a chunk of extra damage to an enemy every time. So obviously this one is better than this one because I have those chances. Everything else looks mostly the same. When you get to higher tiers of areas, like if I get to the level 20 zone, tier 2, level 30 zone, tier 3, When you go to craft an item, the nice thing is if I need, say, a rifle receiver 3, I don't have to go try and hunt down a rifle receiver. I don't have to go into a menu and craft a rifle receiver. I literally just do it right here and I click craft. Pretty straightforward. And then same thing here with this piece and this piece and this piece. They're level 3. But if I try to craft something at tier 4, which I have not explored the level 40-ish zone yet, or the level 30-ish zone, I should say, 31 to 40. These materials, like aluminum, I have not been in an area where I could, mine aluminum. Engineering plastic, I have not picked up the random stuff from the tier 4 zone that will dismantle into this engineering plastic, and that's what you're going to need. So if you're looking at a tier and you don't have the materials for it, it's probably because it's in the next zone that you're going to go to. So try and craft as high as you can, and that's not a bad thing to go for, like steel ingots, bronze, fireproof plastic. None of this stuff is like rare resources to get your basic crafting on. And you'll notice as you go through, all of this stuff is pretty basic. Once you get to a certain territory, you should have a decent amount of it if you're picking up random stuff and dismantling it, and then farming resources and smelting down. But then to go to the next tier, you won't have it. And if I was going to try and go tier 5, I definitely don't have the tungsten ingots, not even remotely there, that one. That'll be a little while. And you'll notice the tiers will bump up your damage. And again, this is like a AK-47 kind of style rifle. So 31 damage per bullet, 48, 77, 120, 182. The tiers jump quite a bit. So the higher the tier you can craft, the better. But you won't be able to craft that tier until you find the resources from whatever zone it is going to be in. Armor crafting is going to work in a very similar way. But you do have armor sets. So you can see this is the raid face shield versus like the rustic set. In the raid set. Well, if I have multiple pieces of the raid set on, you can see that there is a set bonus. And right now, if you get up to 4 pieces, well, then I could wear 2 other pieces from another set, and you can get set bonuses. But my gathering speed's a little faster. My maximum load could be a little bit more. So if you are crafting and you're going through your armor, try and craft, so you can either go the raid set or the blast set. And these are going to have different set bonuses. So trying to match as many pieces as you can is going to give you that benefit if you can pay attention and get lucky. Some of these, like the raid set, I've just gone around and I seem to have all of those unlocked from exploring all of the territories. Some of the other stuff may be a little harder to find later on. But when it comes to armor, tiers work the same way. Crafting works the same way. But you'll notice when you're crafting some of these early pieces of gear, you're going to need... when it comes to like pants, rawhides, I told you, like any of the rawhides, even at like tier 2 or tier 3 or something, you're still going to need rawhide. The basic material from hunting animals, you're still going to need it at tier 3, tier 4. So anytime you're out in the world and you see some animals, do a little bit of hunting and continue to accumulate that rawhide. So that should not be something that slows you down. The rest of the random stuff you'll get as you explore the world, but rawhide, you're going to have to go hunting for that when it comes to armor crafting. Now, when it comes to blueprints, you are going to find fragments of blueprints. Again, weapon crates and those crates that I mentioned, not the supply crates, but the other kind of more important crates. That's where you're going to unlock fragments of blueprints, and that's when you get into this menu. Now, the blueprints themselves, you can see I've actually got the dual fury frag shotgun. So I've got a couple of these things, and we're getting up a little bit higher. But the thing about blueprints is it's not an obvious thing that screams at you. Because for the longest time, I was like, I swear I have picked up a blueprint for a sniper rifle. Sure enough, I actually had picked up a blueprint for the hammer sniper rifle. I just had not fused the fragments of the blueprint together. So you can see right now, hammer blueprint, fragments 40 of 40. And I have the option to fuse it. And a good way to know you have all the fragments is because this little puzzle icon is yellow. The gray ones mean I do not have enough fragments for them. Currently, I found none for all of those. So if you fuse those together, that turns into a blueprint that you can go and craft. But until you actually go into the blueprints menu and fuse them, you will not have the option to craft them. Now, the other thing is, once you fuse a blueprint, you can take things to another level, because you can take any blueprint that you've got and you can enhance that blueprint. So you'll notice that this one right here is, it's of the Stranger Blueprint Fragments. And if I take anything from the Stranger set, and how do I know what the set's going to be? Well, if you look at the behind text behind the weapon, this is Stranger, Operator, Stranger, Stranger, Operator, Beyonder. And then if you look over here, you'll see the blueprint fragments that you have. So if the Huntsman, for example, is something I'm trying to look for, and let me see if I can find anything that's got it. Huntsman, right here. Huntsman, I do have some fragments for the Huntsman rifle for this green one. And you can see I've got them for other things that I can craft. But the blueprint for these are still locked. So I don't really want to spend these blueprint fragments to try and level up this bow, for example, because I haven't even unlocked these blueprints. What you're looking for is to have extra blueprint fragments from stuff that is already unlocked, and that way you know it's extra stuff that you can use. So keep that in mind when you're enhancing. And this is an example. When you come up here to the agent set right here for a helmet, for example, what I'm able to do is, one, I can fuse the blueprint right here. So now that I've unlocked it, but what it said was I was 30 of 15. And then I've already unlocked the agent set chest piece. And if you want to check, you can come back out here, check the chest piece. Now I have the agent set, but I haven't actually unlocked it yet. So again, this is one of those you want to make sure that if you're going to upgrade a blueprint, that you're spending a currency that you've got extra of. Now, I unfortunately took these blast pants up to like a higher tier, and I may have wasted some of the blueprint stuff for a like blast set that I shouldn't have. But these blast pants are now up to tier 4, and you'll notice I've got blue pants and blue pants, green pants and green pants. The stats on the two green ones exactly the same: 538 HP, 34 PSI intensity. Same thing here. They're just going to have different set bonuses to them. Over here, I'm at 614 for the blueprint at 1 star. But if you can enhance your blueprints up to a higher star level, this one is 4 stars. Now I'm looking at, you know, almost 120 more HP, and my PSI intensity is a little higher. So it's smaller increments when you enhance a blueprint. But then again, once you enhance a blueprint and then craft it, then you can take those pants at a higher tier set, and then you can calibrate them to +4. So then you're working at an even higher level than you would be otherwise. So it's like a level 4 blueprint is better than a level 1 blueprint, and then a calibrated item will be better than the base level item. But if you put both of those, a high level blueprint that has now been calibrated above its normal level, doubly good. So that really is one of those things when you can get really deep into blueprints, which sets you're going to go for. Farming for those is a whole thing. And some you're going to see, it's actually going to tell you how to get them. All right, so this one says, obtained from mystical treasures discovered from exploring the Iron River. Well, what the heck is the Iron River? It's actually not as crazy as you think, because if you kind of hover over, you're going to see the Dayton Wetlands. You're going to see the Iron River is this whole zone up here. You're going to have level 21, level 28, but this is the Iron River. So if you hover over any zone, even if you get in here, you're going to see that it is Iron River for this mouse area. Down here, we've got the Dayton Wetlands. Down here, we've got the Broken Delta. And you can go out here and you can see the Chalk Peak at level 32. Some of the Chalk Peak level 36. This zone's going to get kind of big. And then if you go way out here, you can see level 52 in the Blackheart region. Way out of my league. But that's how if you're looking for where to find those, when you go to blueprints and then you go to armor, and you're like, where do I get this stuff? So I need to look for the mystical treasures, and I need to look in the Iron River area. So then I'm just going to be running around that area, trying to clear out as much as I can, trying to find this. Not as important when you're talking about a purple thing, but if you're looking for a very specific set of, say, a legendary weapon, a legendary piece of gear, now this one's going to come from the Wish Machine. Looks like these all do at the moment. And the Wish Machine is something you spend Star Crumb on, a little bit of like in-game gambling, kind of, not really, but it's just like rolling a dice and you don't quite know what you're going to get. So some of this stuff is going to be harder to come by, and that's more in-game. That's a whole different discussion. But you can do a lot of things with even just like these level of gear sets and leveling these things up. And then if you do spend a little bit on the Wish Machine, then you can get some cool pieces of gear. But yeah, your blueprints, pay attention to your fragments, and try and unlock all of the like sets that you can with relation to your fragments, and those are going to get you some better pieces of gear. If you have the extra blueprints able to enhance that blueprint, the fragments, then you can take that blueprint to a higher level, but make sure you craft that entire set before you start wasting those pieces. Same thing will apply with weapons. You may pick up a bunch of fragments but not know it. If you come in here, I have this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and recurve bow. I've got the melee sword to craft. I've got a lot of things, couple heavy weapons that I can do. All of these are things that I can now fuse the blueprint and go craft. I just haven't got around to it yet because for a while I didn't know these were here. And then when I went to make this video, I was trying to leave these as examples. So check your blueprints. You're going to have stuff in here more often than you think, but that's the process of both, like the tier of green, blue, purple, orange. The higher the rarity, the better the base damage. And then also as you enhance the blueprint, that will enhance its abilities and damage and things like that. And then when you go to calibrate it at your weapons thing, that's going to take it to an even higher level. So you've got a lot of ways to level up a piece of gear. Those are all the different ones that you can get it through. Now, next to blueprints, we're going to have mods. Now, mods are both weapons and armor mods. These are going to be slotted into your gear. And you're going to have helmet mods. You're going to have top mods, pants, shoes, mods that go in specific slots. And you're going to start getting these basic ones. Again, your common basic like black or white. You can slot in something into your gloves that's going to give you 4% more HP. Well, that's not bad. Well, if you come up here later on, and now it's like on a piece of tier 3 gear, for example, I can get 8% health, I can have my element do more damage, and I will do more damage to elite enemies. Same thing is the higher you go, the higher the tier gear it gets put on, the better the effect is going to be. So your gear should always be modded. Even my basic sniper rifle here, I'm going to put this on here. Even though it's a tier 2 thing that I've crafted, like I can't get to the tier 3 right now. I could go craft a higher one, but I'm going to do a different weapon for that. But even the core effect of 9% damage, that actually adds up quite a bit. Because you'll notice my combat rating is going to go down pretty drastically when I take that off. So if I come in here and put it back on, I can either go for, and this one actually could give me 9% damage, weak spot damage, and you can actually tell that it's been enhanced. Now, the reason I know it's enhanced is because you can see the little notches down here at the bottom. Like this one's pretty basic. Then at the bottom of this one, the attribute effect down here has one little empty gray diamond in it. This one over here has 2 green diamonds in it, and that means those are kind of on a nice level. And then you can see that this one right here is going to be 1 blue, but then 1 gray. It means you have space for enhancement. You can take things to a higher level. So then if I equip this one, you can see that that's there. And then if I right click enhance, this one's been enhanced to the maximum currently. But if I come up here, I can actually enhance this one for the price of weapon mod parts. How do you get weapon mod parts? You break down weapon mods. So if I don't need these old weapon mods that I'm not going to use the base level anymore, I can mark these as scrap. And then if I go over to my dismantle machine, pretty simple stuff. If I come over here and I check my weapons, or sorry, mods, you can see they're already marked when I come down here as dismantleable, because I know they're going to be junk because they're in that low tier territory. And that's how you get your mods. Same thing with armor, same way is going to apply. And until you're done using it like the HP mod, it's just a nice one to have if you're struggling with health. I kept that one for a little while, and then eventually as I get better ones, we'll break those down for more, and that way you can take any of your mods that you've got, and you can try and make them a little bit more improved. So this one, for example, I have the ability to enhance the melee damage bonus and also the status damage. And when you hold to enhance it, it's going to pick one of them and enhance it. And the higher you go through it, the better. And then the higher rarity of mods you work through, the better off things are going to get. So I know I've got some purple ones up here. So here you can see if I can craft a tier 4 piece of gear and I can put this mod on there, I'm going to get all of these bonuses to it. And then if I want to enhance it, then I'm going to be able to do the enhancement times 4 as well. It really is just like the amount of depth this game has for really trying to min-max, like if you want a certain mods and certain armor and set bonuses and enhancements. It really gets to be quite a deep game the farther you get into it. That's kind of why I'm discussing all of these pieces when it comes to gear, because there are so many facets to it. Now, one major thing I want to point out about weapons. You're going to be able to unlock different types of ammo from your skill tree. You're going to see steel ammo, you're going to see copper ammo, and then at some point you're probably going to see copper AP ammo. Do not craft anything that has the AP on it. It is not worth it. Because you'll notice the steel pistol bullet, while it may take you a while to get up to it, is a 5% damage bonus. And then your copper pistol bullet is going to be basic, your normal damage. But even the steel one is only going to be a 5% bonus per shot. You're like, okay, 5%'s not bad. Come up here, this is 4%. The problem with anything that says AP, these advanced ammo, is, yeah, you can have access to something that gives you a damage bonus. The problem is it uses a resource that is quite hard to come by just overall in the game, and it has way better uses than, you know, crappy copper ammo. Now, if you want to get into something in the game, that's a better use for this. But right now, just copper ammo that has a little bit of a damage bonus, you will never notice or really pay attention. Just use your basic copper ammo. Then when you unlock steel ammo, then you can start using that for a nice little damage bonus. But do not even, you'll unlock this because you have to unlock the AP ammo, but don't ever craft it. Don't waste this resource, please. It's really important. Another thing you're going to come across is acid. Now, acid you're going to typically get from deviants. Those are like the zombie-looking things you see, your monsters or other weird stuff. Acid is a valuable end-game resource as well. And there are certain things that you're going to be doing that are potentially going to use acid. But my advice is keep everything you can, because when you get to endgame, you'll be able to use this up very quickly. So along your progression, save as much as you possibly can, and you're going to thank yourself because that's really important. Don't forget about this as well, the merge items. I have my storage kind of broken up into, like, you know, raw materials that I've got here, and then like farmed materials like wood and ore. I've got those things here as well. Those are all condensed, and you can even get to a point where you can put signs up there to give yourself a little bit of organization. But when it comes to all the stuff I said, like the footballs and everything, all you're going to do is come over here to the disassembly bench. I love that it will basically say anything that's scrap, just select everything that's scrap, and then you're going to get the useful stuff from it. Now, if you want to break down a weapon, you completely can, but it's not necessary. This is a junk weapon that I've made, so that's fine. But yeah, your normal stuff like random footballs and screws and alarm clocks, this is how you break it down into waste plastics and other things. And the higher tiers you're exploring, the better stuff you're going to find for all of this. Now, I did skip one thing because it wasn't specifically gear related, and that is going to be your Memetics Cradle. Now, the tutorial will take you into here pretty early on because you have to unlock your basic things, like you need to be able to make a furnace so you can make copper ingots, and then you can have better tools from getting a copper pickaxe. The thing to know about the tools specifically for this one, the better the tool, it's still going to take you the same number of swings on whatever it is that you're farming. The difference is, like the copper pickaxe to the bronze pickaxe to the steel pickaxe to eventually, you know, alloy and tungsten, the higher you go, the tool itself will actually net more of that material per swing. So if I start out swinging, I get like, you know, 12 or 15 wood from a tree every swing of the axe. Later on, I'm at the point now where I'm getting like 30 wood per swing. So everything is basically just going to net you more. So when it comes to upgrades, especially because you are going to be farming a lot of resources for a while, one of the earliest things to go for, like if you can get aluminum ingots, go for that new pickaxe, because to make the pickaxe is going to require aluminum ingots, but everything else in tier 4 is going to require some aluminum, most likely, at least a lot of it will. So at that point, the more aluminum you get every single swing once you have that upgraded axe is just going to go farther. So tool upgrades are really, really, really important to get early, and they're always going to be a high priority. As soon as you can get tungsten, it's going to cost you a little bit, but same principle. You're always going to be getting more of every material every single swing. Now, when it comes to infrastructure and like which order you unlock all of these, it's kind of hard to really mess this up too bad. You don't have an infinite supply of meme points, so think about, you know, do you really want rocket launchers, for example, or, you know, portable gun towers and things like that? I may wait on that stuff, but like solar power generators and water pumps to move things around, that's probably going to be more beneficial for some home stuff. All of this, though, just kind of look through and you're like, do I really need every single stone support for, you know, buildings and things? Later on you might, but early on not quite as important as some things. So just kind of give it a while. The four-wheeler, you may not really care about that one, but the modifications for your bike, those are going to be more important because the bike's actually better for solo play. And then your garage allows you to do other things as well. All of this stuff will be kind of important for buildings, but once you get some basic roofs over your head and some basic storage, most of this stuff isn't too important for a while. The thing I kind of wanted to mention outside of your basic tools, which those are always important to go as fast through the upgrades as you can, it's your specializations. And these specializations themselves are a little bit random. So like these two first ones I picked, they are permanent. That's kind of one of those things to pay attention to. I did a couple for mining with my axe. So whether it's going for moonlight mining for any ore, I get 25% more. And for me, that felt like a good thing. Early on, cool. Now the forestry one, I will be completely honest with you. I probably would not go this way because you're going to have plenty of wood and eventually you might find a deviation that can go farm wood for you. So this is probably a wasted one. I haven't picked any of the others because I've been kind of making this video over a little while. And they're all a little bit random, but you're going to notice, like, do I want my disassembly bench to give me more of a certain material? Well, it might not be a bad idea if I feel like I'm short on something. But if I come over here and I look up roasted, and dried dishes, now give me more energy and also a sanity improvement, that's actually huge. There's not a lot of places to get back sanity, so that's actually one I might consider. Come down here to the next one that I opened. Maximum number of power generators and the maximum output that they make. Power, like electrical power that you make for your base, is limited, so having more of that is probably going to be more beneficial than just about anything else I can think of here. These are still going to be random, so you're probably not going to see the same things that I see, but just kind of this is your way to think about which ones to go for. Canned goods, for example, could be one that might actually be good. Like a portable machine gun, that's a generally nice idea, but it's probably not necessary or the extra benefits to it. But anytime I make a canned good that is a non-perishable food, it's going to give me an extra one for it. That just means all of my cooking that I do in canned food, which is kind of a little harder to come by early on, that's one of those that's going to be better. Now over here, you've got an improved formula. The Electrica drill enjoy 100% yield when mining for gold, silver, and stardust ore with an electric drill. Now, the gold, silver, and stardust ore that you can go for is something you can sell. And again, I can get to later on. I can actually get down here and I can actually have now the ability to refine those precious ores. So this is why I was like, I wouldn't pick everything like as you go, because if I didn't pick this one, then maybe I wouldn't pick this one. But if I did get the first one, I could combine those two together and have a little bit more precious metal kind of resource work. Solar power could be more, power generation than expected. So maybe that's the way I handle my power. Could be a little bit easier. So all of these things, I would wait a little while because you have no rush to really get these benefits. They're not going to be anything to worry about too much. But if you pick the wrong one and it's permanent and you feel like you want to take things a different way later on, you could have probably done a bit different. So specializations, wait on choosing those until you get more towards the end game. And then you can really narrow down what's going to benefit you, your build, your playstyle. Maybe you're in a group, whatever it may be. It'll benefit you the most. Now, the other side of your Memetics Cradle is the Cradle. And this is going to come from just basically accomplishing big boss fights or any of these. There was the securement silo, and those are kind of spread around the destinations. There's a couple that I've got access to right now. And I think one of them I could probably go clear out pretty quickly and unlock another one of these nodes. Some of the other ones have been from just like the major boss fights, like first, second, and third boss fight. And then the Shadow Hound, I'm sure, is going to be the fourth one that I fight in the level 40 kind of main monolith that I've got to go do. But once you open these things up, the nice thing is you can put a mod from anywhere in any slot. It doesn't matter, and all you got to do is just put it somewhere and you'll get the benefit. Now, I like SMGs and like sniper rifles for my current build, so I've got those two equipped. Cooling or healing as a solo player, using my heals faster was good in a couple of boss fights. Maybe you're somebody who dodge rolls a lot. You get 15% damage reduction every time you're kind of doing that. That's not a bad way to go. Movement speed a little higher, stamina cost a little lower. That's just a universal thing I'll get benefit from. And then when you reach level 40, or when the season actually gets to phase 4, so if you're just joining in late, you'll have options to different things as well. You'll be able to place these kind of wherever you want. So the securement silos are definitely worth doing. They're not part of the main quest, but unlocking these are definitely worth doing. And I know I had a securement silo. Sorry, weird little glitch there for a sec. It's like, I know I have a securement silo right here. Sigma. Level 15, not going to be that difficult for me to do at my level. But then if I come back in here and it's the Sigma one right here, this one should be done. And it seems to go in a clockwise fashion, so I probably just overlooked this one. And then Securement Silo Alpha, that may be one I need to hunt for in the upper territory, maybe up here somewhere. I haven't seen it specifically, so that may be one that I'm just going to bump into in the next zone. But either way, those Securement Silos, if you explore and actually clear one out, you're going to get the benefit of actually having that extra mod slot for that universal kind of buff that you'll have all the time from the Cradle. Couple other menus that you want to pay attention to. If you hit F3, this is where you're going to find the events, the battle pass, and everything else. So we'll start with the battle pass. And as I told you guys, the top of the battle pass, like these first 50 or 60 levels, all of this stuff is like adrenaline shots and the Stardust source and canned food and activators and fuel, and you know, there's a little bit of cosmetics up here too, but a lot of it is just general resources that are going to be beneficial to you in your exploring. Everything down here in the bottom, the paid pass, is cosmetic. And I actually really appreciate the cosmetics are the only thing down here so far. And everything like Starcrom, that's what you use in the wish machine, so you can try and go after some of those blueprints. You get some of that randomly through here. But the battle pass being totally free, and you know, there's portable machine gun turrets in here, there's some random keys for the battle pass tokens, and there's some weapon skins in here, but there is nothing useful in the bottom. Everything is skins and cosmetics. But I will tell you, if you haven't come in here and claimed this for a while, come in here and click claim all. Even if you haven't bought the normal, the advanced battle pass, you'll still claim all of this stuff, which is pretty useful. So don't forget about your battle pass. That's a good thing to make sure you check on every so often. The next one is going to be your events. You've got quite a few things here. So for combat, for example, the Unbridled Power, hunt 10 animals, defeat 10 deviants, backstab 5 enemies. That's just get behind them, and I could actually claim these rewards right now. That's just one I need to claim. Once you've done the first tier, then you can start working on the second tier. So I've got Throwing Mastery is the last thing, is this one I need to do. So I need to defeat 10 enemies with throwables like Molotovs or grenades. Defeat 5 elite enemies. If you start exploring a lot, that's not going to be hard. And deal damage using a deviation, which we'll get to deviations after this. So it's left to right is your progression on these. And it looks like gather 10 ore. This one I've claimed. So now the Survival Prodigy. I'm almost there. I need to obtain rewards from 1 Morphic Loot Crate. So that's the only thing I need to do. That's probably one of those you could probably Google and find pretty quickly. But this is a place, again, random rewards that you can go through. And if I could defeat the Anachronism, I actually could get kind of a cool weapon skin. Then you come up here to event. There's going to be random stuff that's going on. Like on Saturday the 27th, I'm going to be able to come in here, log in at 6 a.m., I think my time, and I'm just going to be able to claim these random resources. Back here for last Saturday, I got these. And these as well. If the day has passed already, just log in here and pick these rewards up and you're good to go. So all you gotta do is log in and pick up these rewards. If you got friends, invite them, you can get some stuff. Twitch drops from watching streams. Cosmetics you can get, but those get into the shop and stuff like that. But yeah, you're just general events for the world and friends if you got other people coming in, or the Twitch drops. Those are a pretty easy way to get some resources. Regular events. Now, the Astral Duelets. Notice I have 100 of 120. You cap at 120, you get 20 every day. Now, you have a weekly limit of the number of Sanity gummies that you can buy, the number of activators that you can buy. You can buy 1 adrenaline shot every week, and that's like your, you know, life-saving. If you die, you can give yourself an adrenaline shot, get back up and keep going. You can get those in a few other places, but getting one for basically just a freebie resource, not bad. As for like flatbreads and orange juice, these are perishables. So unless you're just really in a pinch for food and hunger, I probably wouldn't get these, but they are unlimited. So if you've capped out your use of what you're buying, yeah, then you could probably buy those and you don't have to worry about making food for a day. But don't forget about using your Astral Duelets. Community rewards, if you follow them in certain places, you can get different rewards. Starcrom, again, used for a lot of things. And then if you're in part of their Discord, they've got that as well. Global events. So this is just kind of one of those things. If you've been part of the global event, come in here and claim this. Not too shabby. Oh, yeah, right here in the shop. This is the shop where you actually would spend money on cosmetics and looks. But if you go over here to other, you're going to find the weekly rewards from Mitsuko's marks. And these are like, you'll get 50 marks. They cost you basically 1 gold, 1 currency. Very, very cheap to get. And it's just one of those things you want to do it once a week to make sure you don't forget about those. Everything else, this is where if you want to spend money and contribute to the game, you can get a whole bunch of random stuff in here. That's up to you. Just don't miss out on those little memetic marks, because then you can spend those on some random stuff out in the game. So I feel like I've covered a lot. Outside of like, you know, I'm not going to show you how to chop down trees or how to go through combat or how to clear out buildings. One thing I'll tell you is your snap. This little snap, anytime you do this, you're going to be able to see random stuff in the world. Like if I run over to a combat zone and then I snap, I'm going to be able to see where chests are in the world. I'm going to see what material I can pick up. So if we come over here for low-level basic stuff, it's still going to count as an example. But as you snap, you'll see some, like, previous where people left notes. But then if I get over to these buildings and I start snapping, you're going to be able to see stuff on the inside of the building. Obviously, I'm a little over-leveled, so this shouldn't be difficult. But if you come in here, you're going to see those glows are usually either supply crates or better. So those are always worth doing. But also anything on the ground, like you're going to see these metal cabinets, that means there's something inside that you can actually pick up. Anything on the ground like this that if you see, notice if I hit F, it does an area of effect pickup. And usually that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run into an area. You can snap, so you can pull up everything that way. I'll usually just run in an area and hit F, so I don't know if the snap is required for the area of effect pickup. And there's a little bit of acid, but you're also going to notice you got this chest over here. And that's what that little, like, kind of weird pinkish purple icon is. Those are going to be storage crates or above. Storage crates then go to gear crates and weapon crates. And then also the mythical crate is the best one you can get. But you'll also notice I have something upstairs that I can go for too. Now there's no stairs in here. But this is where it comes to jumping around on stuff is actually going to allow you to get higher than you think sometimes. Sometimes you just need to find a ladder. That's usually what it is half the time. But sometimes you might just be able to hop on some barrels and then hop up and get higher than you think. So I would try, see that. You might not think you could do that, and you might be just a little short of the roof. But sometimes you're just going to be able to do some weird jumping around. You might be able to jump up on like a door edge and then jump a little higher. And then if you can maybe jump fast enough, look, I got up to the roof probably in the unconventional way. And I know it's the unconventional way because there's a ladder over here somewhere. See, there's the ladder I'm supposed to use. But try the jumps, because every so often you're going to be able to jump and climb up a little higher than you think you probably should have been able to. And this is the storage crate that's up top. So no crazy resources at this one, but I just wanted to show you guys. And then if you get up somewhere higher, where you might not have thought you could get to, but maybe there's a building over there you want to get to, your glide is actually really good at getting you places. And then you'll be able to go take, you know, basically a direct path to another rooftop. Maybe there's a crate over there. And when you get into some higher areas and you're like, oh, I see a weapon crate, but I don't want to have to go down to the ground, go find a ladder, go up. Just try and fly across and get to it, and half the time you might be able to get there. But yeah, use your snap, figure out whatever you can pick up. You're going to see which resource boxes are worth going in for. Open this one. And again, I got a formula for a simple table. Now I can craft that if I want some furniture. But you'll notice I've got like a blanket, I've got a water bottle, I've got some stuff over there. If I just hit F, like in the middle of a room for like, you know, picking stuff up, I'm going to get everything in a general area. The snap is just a good way to see what's around. The snap is also a good way to see what things like desks and cabinets and other things that you're going to be able to interact with, because sometimes it's not obvious that you can open a desk drawer and maybe get some stuff. Things like trash bins on the ground or big green trash dumpsters, they also usually have a lot of materials, so don't forget about those as well. So I know I didn't really intend to cover some of that basic stuff, but when it goes to looking for materials, it is as simple as running around and picking up that type of stuff. But those little, don't forget your Q snap to look around. If that might help you track down one of those mythical crates, you're like, all right, I know I'm on nearly the top floor, and the crate I'm looking for is above me. It's a special crate. How do I get up there? And then you know you've at least got to find a ladder or find some way to get to a floor above. So that Q snap, don't forget about that one. And then just pick up just about everything you can find. So finally, we got to talk about these little things flying around my base or walking around. These are deviations, and they are a whole discussion in and of themselves. So, deviations. These are things you're going to find out in the world. If you're thinking of Pal World or Pokemon, you're probably not too far off. These are just probably a little darker and a little stranger too. Like there's my random dinosaur dude. He does a little cooking bonus. I've got the guy in my backpack who's a copy of this guy. So you've got certain ones that are combat related, and you can actually sync those with your Cradle and take them with you into battle. Now this guy is actually pretty cool because I have two options. I can throw it down and I can form a fortification, which is just going to be like a wall to give me a little bit of cover. Or if I do the build fortification, this one is actually one that I can stand next to and get health and sanity back. There's not a lot of things I can tell you that are going to give you sanity, but the fact that I can sit here, hit E, and I can go to build fortification, And you can watch my health. My health's already full. Like, it's going to give you your health really fast. Doesn't last all that long, but if you're going to get your health and your sanity back that quickly, that's really actually quite impressive. So these are actually really helpful. The more you find, the more options you're going to have. And then if you put them in these isolated securement units, the ones that are capable of either combat stuff, they're going to be able to kind of regenerate their power and mood and get back to normal. Something like this guy, the Digby boy, is really crucial because look, he walked around and he found 255 copper. That's not all he found. He probably also found me some sulfur, and he found me some tin ore, and he got me some iron. Like, the Digby boy, when you can find him, and again, I forget exactly where I found him because I found him so early on, but if you can just get him into a securement unit, he's just going to wander outside of your base and go get you ore, and every so often check what he's got, and you're going to get a nice little supply. Same thing, there's a beaver. And the beaver, if you come down here to Myers Market, I've been told multiple times that the beaver's usually right around here below the Myers Market. So every so often, if you just don't have it yet, check. And then, like, I can actually teleport down here because I'm in my territory. So quick teleport. Come down here and see if I can find the little beaver guy. And if the beaver guy, not shocking, he's going to go out and harvest wood for you. And he's going to be able to get you a kind of damn near infinite supply. So that's why when I said the specializations for me going for ore, I don't think that's a bad one to go for because I'm going to be farming plenty of ore with my pickaxe by myself. I'm probably going to do that on my own enough that it's not a bad idea. The one for wood, though, the specialization for wood, I do feel that was probably a waste. So that's kind of one of those I wish I could take back, but it's my mistake to learn, and hopefully you guys don't have to. So this is the little dock that I was talking about down here, and this is where I have been told that you're going to find the beaver, and it looks like he's just hanging out here on the end of the dock. Now, he may not be here in your instance at this time, but check back here every so often. Or if you go to a different world zone, you'll be able to get them. So now I can get my logging beaver. Should be able to get a little bit of a capture. Now, if you fail to capture him, you just got to give it another attempt. Usually it's not that difficult. And I got a logging beaver. So then I can truly take him home. And that's also a way to get yourself some ciphers for your memetic points. That's one of the rare ways to get it. And then you can come in here. I can check, and I've got my little logging beaver right here. I've also got like a bee that's going to be good for crop production. I've got the voodoo doll, which is like in combat can split damage for you. I can have the extra dimensional cat give me a more energized sleep. All these random things. So you just got to figure out what buffs you want to be active. There's also fishing, which you can do in quite a few places, which I would imagine what a lot of those little markers are for. So I think that covers most of what I'm going for between deviations and everything else in the game. I do want to head back and give you just one or two more tips on deviations real quick because you can kind of make them recharge their batteries faster. And I say batteries, their deviant power and their mood. But if you come up here to where I've got my deviations hanging out, you can see that I've got like colored lights in a couple of places. There's a red light for these guys. So you'll notice I've got a red light from the ceiling on these guys. And you'll notice if I come in here for the securement environment, he's going to recover his power and mood faster if I have a red light by him. If I actually power his little securement unit, which means I had to build a solar power plant up there and then run the wire down here. The wire's not hard. You just go into build mode and then you can attach the wire. That's pretty easy. But since they're powered, they get a better recharge as well. If I can figure out a way to get a radio and music or something, I can get some bonuses as well. There's another one in here that's like if you place toys next to it, and then maybe if you give it blue light and red light and toys and other stuff, then you can have them be better as well. So the more of these securement units, the more of these little guys you can have working for you. This guy right here, he likes the red light. He likes high temperatures. So if I put him next to like my furnace, for example, he would actually recharge faster if he was next to a furnace. And they're all going to do different things. So just read what they do. So as you can see, Digby Boy, he's just going to be out in the world mining, and he's going to give me resources. And if you have a couple of those working for you, maybe along with a beaver, you're probably not going to be hurting too much for ore. Or you might also get plenty of wood if you can find the beaver. Then you've got random stuff like the gingerbread house makes crumbs. The crumbs you can use to make these transformation cookies. One of them turned me into a sheep. I'm not entirely sure the purpose, and there's a lot of weird stuff in this game. And that's kind of the final thing to discuss is there's truly a lot of weird stuff in this game. It really is. Some of the enemies you're going to see are going to have balloon heads or spotlight heads. And it's just a little goofy, but I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the game is it's just not the normal, and it's got so many genres put together. And the battle pass being The free battle pass being is where you get actually the usable items, everything else being cosmetic is paid for. They've managed monetization pretty well personally, and the fact that I've got all these systems to work through. If you're somebody who likes building a really cool base, you're going to be able to build some really cool bases later on when you move your territory and get some cool upgrades. Right now, you've got survival, crafting, combat, third-person shooting, and so much more. So I've been enjoying my time in the game. I'm going to keep playing it, and hopefully this guide either got you interested, taught you something, or gave you a smooth guide if you were just kind of installing and getting ready to go. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like below, leave a comment if there's something major you want to share with people. If there's a group of comments that kind of put together some information, I will kind of make one big pinned comment and probably also put that in the description, so look for that if there's more information that I've learned over time. And if you guys are enjoying what I do, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell, come find me on Twitch or Twitter. But thank you all for watching this one. I know it's a long one, but this game has so much going on, and this video didn't even cover everything. But I hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.